Welcome to the Property Management Mastermind Show with your host, Brad LARSEN. Brad owns one of the fastest growing property management companies in San Antonio, Texas. This podcast is for property managers by property managers. You'll hear from industry-leading professionals on best practices, new ideas, success stories, and lessons learned. This is your opportunity to learn about the latest industry buzz surrounding property management, as well as tips and strategies to improve your business.
PestShare, a pest control amenity for your resident benefits program. Starting at just $5 per door, you can give your residents the pest control coverage they need. PestShare will even pay for the expensive infestations like bedbugs and cockroaches. And the debate over who pays for pest control, while PestShare turns an expense into added revenue. For more information, check out their website at pestshare.com/property managers.
Hey everybody, this is Brad LARSEN. I want to talk to you about a new podcast out there that I would highly recommend called 300 to 3000, How to Grow Your Property Management Company to Scale. One of the hosts is Matthew Whitaker. He's a good friend of mine. I visited their operation and I really, truly respect what GK Houses has done and they are still doing. They are experts at growing at a fast scale into a large scale business. So expect to hear the real world truth about all the mistakes the company has made growing into it and all the good things they're doing. Again, go to 300 to 3000.com. That's their website, and catch them on iTunes, Spotify, and or Stitcher. Look forward to hearing from good things from those guys. Take care. Welcome everybody to another edition of the Property Management Mastermind podcast. I'm your host, Brad LARSEN. Today's guest coming at us from the great state of Idaho, which is one heck of a place to be, Mr. Landon Cooley. And so we're going to be talking about his business and how it's going to be working with property managers in our industry. Very excited to have you on today. Landon, how's it going? Give us a quick intro.
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Brad. I'm excited to be on the podcast. I enjoy listening to your show and love the industry. We're excited to be more involved. Yeah, my name is Landon Cooley. I'm the CEO and one of the owners of PestShare. I own this company with two partners of mine, Tom and Justin Clements. And together we are here to bring shed a whole new light on pest control, bringing pest control to the property management industry, really in a way that hasn't been done before. And so, I'm here from the greater Boise, Idaho area, and been involved in pest control my whole life. I'm actually fourth generation in our family in the pest control industry. So my 84-year-old grandpa is still out there doing pest control. My dad and my great grandpa actually started doing the 1920s. And so we've escalated through these years with, I own a pest control company here. And then over the last decade or so, I've been getting really involved with the property management industry. And I'd say in the last maybe 3 years, we started shaping up what now is PestShare.
So this is kind of something that's new because we're all used to pest control at a hyper local level. And so you're looking at putting more of a national level on this. Kind of explain how that works a little bit further for us because, we see it locally. We've done the pest control. We've done the pest treatments for VA inspections and stuff like that. So tell us how this is going to work nationally. Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's it's a good point to touch on with PestShare. PestShare is not necessarily meant to be a quote unquote pest control vendor. And so PestShare, part of our goal is two-part. One, we're going to come into your maintenance operation and start alleviating you from having to deal with PestShare. And part of that is utilizing our network of pest control vendors. Now, in developing that network, we have a nationally based vendor network. And a lot of that is comprised from your vendor. So when we onboard with a client, we're going to be, part of our process ultimately is seeing who you're currently working with. And if you love them, we love them, we'll work with them. They'll be better off with us than without us. And so, but aside from that, we have a lot of great relationships within the pest control industry that, involve people from some of the largest companies in the country to, small companies as well. And so it's just all about finding a good relationship that works for everyone. But our role ultimately is on one hand is to manage your pest control needs on your behalf, alleviate you from that. And then, really what I think turns a lot of heads is we have a resident benefit program, an RBP offering that is a pest control benefit. And that's really what I think PestShare's big focus is ultimately getting your tenants an amenity and a benefit being pest control.
That was one of my first thoughts is, okay, how do we implement this thing into our business? And you would assume you want the recurring revenue. You would assume you want, some sort of recurring service like once, twice a year, once a quarter, whatever you kind of recommend for that particular locality. Certain areas may need more than others. If you have a real cold winter, you won't need pest control necessarily in December. But if you're like in Tucson, you're going to need it, every month potentially. I'm just thinking out loud with you here, because there's going to be a lot of questions from people on, okay, how do we implement this and where do we make the money? So I'm going to paraphrase Robert Gilstrap. If you know Robert real well,
yeah, I know Robert. I don't know him real well, but I know him. Yeah,
you got to go up 3 octaves. Now, how am I going to make money on this? Tell me how.
Yep. Yeah. So let me touch on something here, and I'll lead into answering that question, which is one of the first questions we get is how we make money on this. Now, part of the way in which we get you making money on this is first stepping back and saying, how is pest control in the pest control industry offered today? And especially on a residential basis. Now, pest control industry is an old industry. One of the things I'm really passionate about is in my career, I want to change an old industry. Growing up in the industry, pest control is the one I have my sights on. And one really unique, innovative thing we're doing is we are taking pest control, whereas it's currently known as a recurring service. They come out once my house once a quarter. I sign up for this thing. I spend $500 a year, and so comes out and does this service. What we are doing is we're kind of stepping away from that concept. I mean, there's times we do that. It's appropriate for sure, but what we're trying to do is offer tenants more of what we call on-demand pest control. And the thought behind that is I'm going to put you on this program, and as a tenant or as a resident, homeowner, whatever, you can come to us whenever you want service. And here's your coverage. And the coverage is key. In my house here in Boise, Idaho, I have to say have quarterly pastoral service. And the overall pest coverage is really focused on general pests, the spiders, the ants, things like that. Problem in the property management world is you deal with cockroaches, you deal with bed bugs, you deal with termites, you deal with these very expensive pests that it can't be offered. The service is too expensive from a traditional standpoint. And just executing the service alone to be including those and have to deal with those too. And that's one thing we want to do. We found that by making pest control on demand, giving the power to the tenant, say, hey, this is when I need it. Here's my request. We can also include coverage for those expensive pests that are real pain points in the property management industry. And so we've kind of reshaped how we offer pest control. We're giving the tenants a lot of control and requesting it directly to us, dispatching service fast through the property manager. We're kind of filtering down what we want to cover and what we're not worried about covering. And we have a lot of solutions ultimately for those tenants when we go through that. At the end of it all, though, we are able to get our price points down for base coverage is around $5 a door. I mean, I'd say our common settling point on our programs is about $10, $10 to $12 per door per month, which leaves a lot of room for the property manager. I mean, industry standard pricing. I own a pest control company here in Boise, Idaho. We charge $40 to $50 a month for a quarterly recurring service that doesn't talk about, we're not talking cockroaches, we're not talking bed bugs, we're not talking those expensive things. There's a lot for what you're able to offer through us as property managers, there's a lot of margin there where you can easily mark up our costs as it goes to the tenant and be well cheaper than any other option out there for the tenant.
I'm thinking of a couple different ways to go with this. I mean, you could throw this into your resident benefits package if you have one. If you don't have that or you don't know what it is, got to refer back to a bunch of different episodes and just, maybe go on some of the forums like the Property Manager Mastermind group, Facebook group, and just, punch in resident benefits package. There's lots of property managers that will share that with you. And I've seen it range from a super small amount of $15, $20 to $60, $65. There's all over the board, in our vicinity for what we do. We include insurance. What I'm thinking here, trying to make a point, I had to give some folks some background, is I'm thinking though that you could put that into your resident benefits package and maybe charge a little bit more. That's kind of my thought process. And then it's buried, it's baked in, as they say, right? It's baked into that resident benefits package. Then you're still providing that. Now, okay, so there's that technique. And then there's also the opt-in technique. Like, what are you thinking kind of works the best for what you've seen?
PestShare is totally designed for resident benefit programs. So we work closely with Second Nature, a lot of these other companies that are very active in that space. And Reptiles together, we collaborate together. And that is, PestShare was designed with that in mind. And so, as far as our implementation goes, a lot of our tools and whatnot are designed around resident benefit programs and making this an offering. And I will say, we are, I could be wrong, I don't know all the offerings out there, but we're probably the only, if not one of the few, that are dabbling in professional service offering versus product base, sending, for example, like secondary sending an air filter. We are sending out a legitimate, vetted, professional service provider, a lot of times at no cost to the tenant to execute a service. That's very expensive. That's why no one's doing it. And I would say that's something that makes us unique. It's really valuable for the tenant when they're ultimately utilizing our service through their RVP.
Now, you mentioned tenant, but let's not forego the benefits to the owner. Because keeping the home maintained without infestations only benefits really both parties. I mean, you got the tenant paying the asset down for the owner. The owner's reaping good benefits from the tenant paying for their mortgage, or if they have a mortgage, but they're maintaining the asset while it appreciates in value. And so this is really protecting the owner in addition to giving the tenant peace of mind, because obviously all the surveys and everything we hear about tenants and their tenancy is they want more amenities. I mean, they want all the easy button, right? If they could have us come out and change light bulbs, if they could have us do filters for them, if they could have us pick up their garbage and clean their home for them, they would opt into that. I'm the same way. Okay. Yep. So if I could get somebody to come to my house and do laundry, I would do it. So that's what everybody wants nowadays, whether you're tenants or an owner. So this is one of those situations where I'm seeing the value here. And I'm kind of new to this. We haven't signed up yet because we're still kind of feeling things out with it. This is kind of our first call. So this is really our, first dive into it. But we're starting to see you in the space. I bumped into you in the last conference. You came out to the Property Management Mastermind Conference. And so now it's time to okay, let's really talk through this and what you guys can offer. So kind of talk to me through that point. Are you seeing people? I'm going to actually come to a point instead of all this babble. Are you seeing property managers do more tenant charges, or are they offering it to the owners as an upsell? Are they burying this in their property management fees? Talk to me through all the techniques you're thinking.
Yeah. So let me, I'll start off here and just say, we are relatively new to the scene, and I too will kind of build up to a point here. We, a broker owner was our first, that was our first event on the national scene. We honestly didn't have a lot of plans this year. And after that, and we have been to conferences every single month since then. And so we're talking to a lot of property managers right now. Things are better than we ever imagined they'd be. And I would say of all the people we're talking to, we are for sure seeing something. Most people are all going to resident benefit programs with this. But we're seeing some interesting conversations develop, and some of our clients are sure taking advantage of this as kind of this either owner benefit program or a tenant owner split. And I think when we dive into the individual pests, I say termites, we say, that's going to be owner expense. I say spiders, or I say, even bed bugs in a lot of circumstances very well could be a tenant expense. And so there are some state statutes and whatnot as well that do go into pastoral and dictate, this is always going to be an owner expense. So having the ability to split it for sure gives us flexibility. But for us, I mean, we can really do whatever fits you best as a property manager, wherever, if you're at $50 already in your RVP, you're struggling to find space, we can look at that owner side and maybe open up some space there. We'd be very creative.
Here's a fun thing that we've done. Probably about 6 months ago, we created a maintenance service package. And so inside of that, we charge an additional fee to the owners every month, but we give them a ton of benefits to include quarterly HVAC inspections. I mean, there's a laundry list of benefits, not just some hokey one-time charge. It's similar to the resident benefits package, but placed onto the owners. And then, of course, we have our management fee on top of that. And we explain it. Say, we had to delineate that because the management fee, everybody does that. That's the tried and true, boring. Everyone's charging either a flat fee or a percentage fee. But we're doing so much more that we had to cut it out and actually show people that we're doing for X per month. We're doing this, and this, and this. Okay. I'm thinking this might be a good place to see if we want to input it into that particular charge as one more giant, huge bullet point to execute a service on behalf of the owners for the tenants and actually be on behalf of their asset, their home. So it's an interesting concept because we're talking about RVP, but then, not a lot of people have done what we've done and put a maintenance service package together. And, I put it together for 6 months, a year. We're talking to other property managers, kind of screening our owners. And, some owners don't necessarily like it, but once they see what's in it, it is seriously a no-brainer, right? So it's a huge value add to our owners. And we're not just gouging them. We want them to see the value. You could argue that we're losing money on it in certain places, but in the end of the day, I think it's a value that we needed to provide to the owners. And here's why we're doing this mandatory. It's a maintenance service package, because if we ask them to opt in, guess what? They don't opt in. And so it kind of like defeats the purpose of even having the program if you're only getting 10 or 20 or 15 or 25% opt-in, right? Because owners historically, I don't mean to disparage any owners, but sometimes they're historically cheap. Okay, I don't mean to like say that in a negative way, and that's not going to be any rocket surgery. That's going to be like, oh, really? Owners are cheap? Right? We didn't know that. Because a lot of times it's on us because we didn't show them the value of that particular program. So it is all of our fault. But in the end of the day, I think if we're doing it this way, I think we're getting more buy-in, which allows everybody to have this program, which allows everybody to reap the benefits of us being able to do this maintenance service package.
Yeah, I love it. I really encourage stuff like that. I actually have an example too I'll share. We had a property manager that was getting ready to onboard with us, and they had an apartment complex, and we had heard there was bed bugs in it, and we ended up taking a canine and we ran that whole complex, and we ended up finding a total of 15 units with bed bugs in it. And between the combination of treatments we had to do, I mean, we're talking I want to believe it was $25,000 in bed bug treatments. And they were about to unleash PestShare. And at that point, we had actually talked to their owners too about the idea of something like this. And I mean, after this experience, obviously that's hard because, contractually it was tenant responsibility, but how do you trace that back? There was, probably ground zero in unit one that just spread. And these people, they're, maybe they're culturally accustomed to living to them. They may have fear of being evicted, so don't say anything. And immediately after that, the owner volunteered to start paying for PestShare, obviously, to start using this kind of like an insurance for himself to protect him from this again. And of course, for the property manager, they're pretty motivated and implementing PestShare and getting things rolling. And
that's a good thing we need to talk about, because I haven't really gone down that path. So the financial obligations, if the unit gets any sort of infestation from bed bugs or cockroaches or whatever, you name it, that could be pretty hefty. So talk to me through. I mean, I could put it together in my head, but I want to hear what you've got. So tell me more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, one thing I'm just really passionate about with PestShare. So you got to understand, coming into PestShare for the last decade, I've been very involved with NARPM as a pest control vendor within the Southwest Idaho chapter. And so, I mean, it's not uncommon for us to get bed bugs, get a work order, and we charge $1,000, $1,500. If we have to heat treat, it could be even more, so we're talking really high costs. And that's what's led up to all this ultimately is we see this huge pain point. There's a lot of ambiguity surrounding it of who's going to pay, but ultimately you have a tenant that probably can't afford that. And so what do? Okay, we'll get the owner to cover, but ultimately this doesn't come around. We're going to try to get them to pay, they never pay, whatever. And so that's what's led up to this. This pest control is not cheap if professionally done, and which we are full advocates for. We want to make professional pest control more accessible, and then try to find every avenue we can to make more affordable too for the residents, owner, whoever's going to pay. But ultimately with PestShare, I just had one. I just saw a claim come through for bed bugs in Pennsylvania. That guy, so this company just onboarded with us. We're charging them $5 per door, which includes bed bug coverage with us. It's kind of our base coverage. That tenant's paying $0, and I'm about to cut a check for, I think it was $800 to the service provider for that bed bug treatment. And so that's the difference. I mean, we're creating a co-op. People are paying in small increments ultimately to get professional service and problems resolved properly. And but those costs are over the board. Average pest control treatment for ants in a kitchen, maybe $150, $200, up to termites, tens of thousands of dollars, bed bugs, thousands of dollars. And it's not cheap by any means through the eyes of a tenant.
That's a great analogy of calling it a co-op. And here's why, because I grew up in farm country, Iowa, right?
Yep.
And there's all these co-ops there. And the co-op is a grain bin where all these farmers get together, they form this little organization, whatever term it is, and they all share the resources of all that cost. So they call it a co-op. Again, And I think that's a great analogy, because what we're doing is we're pooling our resources with, recurring revenue monthly coming in. There will be money going out. It's an insurance concept type stuff. Now, what you didn't touch on is that unit gets infested, for example, the owner may be obligated to relocate the tenant either into a hotel or a different unit, pay for moving expenses. Otherwise, the tenant can lawyer up, and it's not a good climate for any landlord to go into any sort of courtroom or be involved in any sort of litigation. I mean, all of the judges out there seem to be more and more and more tenant friendly. So giving the judges more room to rule against a dirty landlord, the scumbag landlord, right? Any excuse they can get to look good for their constituents, they're going to do that, and they're going to rule against landlords. So I wouldn't even take that chance. I mean, I would not want to go into a courtroom where an attorney's alleging mental strain, and now all of a sudden the damage model is $100,000 because you have bed bugs. I mean, that's what attorneys do.
Well, you look at it this way too. All their furniture had, bed bugs. I actually talked to a company in, where were they? We talked to someone and a property manager, and they were saying that their pest control vendor told them, here, we'll charge you $200 to come treat, but have the tenant get rid of all of their furniture. And we're like, which is terrible advice. Like obviously those are not the vendors we use, but I mean, it proves a point though, if they're mattresses. So take bed bugs, mattresses, any fabric-based furniture, all of that's in jeopardy. It's likely to be infested by bed bugs. And I mean, if I'm a disgruntled tenant, I can start making claims on that. There's staining that happens from the bed bugs, but cockroaches as well. They can infest appliances and things. You can go down a pretty scary road where it can spiral out of control. And I'd say with PestShare, what's nice is like you put that program in place and there's something there and it's available. And one like really cool analytic we're tracking right now and we're starting to gather data on is the increase in pest control usage for a property under PestShare versus traditional method, because we have a decade of numbers from just being a normal service provider and getting work orders in. So now we're actually starting to see, and right now I ran some numbers earlier. I'm seeing about talk to me in a year or two and we'll have real accurate numbers, but probably about a 30% increase in of overall pest control usage for a given client, which I think we'll ultimately see more as this matures and more companies, this becomes a real standard procedure for tenants. But for us, we want to see the tenants use it. Like as PestShare, I want to pay the bill on one unit that got treated for bed bugs, not the 5 because the tenant didn't say anything. And so we, it spread or whatever. And so, we really want this to be a proactive tool, help you guys mitigate potential risk. But I think having a resource, a tool, amenity, whatever you want to call it, in place is a huge step in the right direction in mitigating that risk. I gotta share people some horror stories with the attorneys. You guys got to understand this, okay? I'm gonna talk about this, and I'm talking about the other side of what I'm thinking with the how to implement this as far as how many service calls a year. So back to my original point, people need to understand that attorneys work on contingency. That's their little fancy lawyer term. For we work for free until somebody writes us a check for a settlement and or we win a judgment. And so if you get a tenant that's super disgruntled, like they're ticked off, they're ready to go to bat, they're going to find an attorney. Attorney's going to sign them up on contingency, which means $0 out of that tenant's pocket. And the attorney is going to make trouble with the demand letter and file suit and demand something crazy in the event they want a quick little 5, 10, 20 grand settlement. That's what they're doing. And they take half of that and give the other half to the tenant. It could be 60-40, but that's a contingency lawsuit. And you don't ever want to go down that path because, attorneys find it real easy to take these poor, disgruntled tenants. They're just a working family and they have 6 kids and the landlord won't pay for their relocation. Oh, really? Okay. Bam, smack, landlord. Now, here's what I'm thinking on the implementation. Are you thinking quarterly in this puppy? Are you thinking monthly, or what are you talking here? As far as, expound on that a little bit. What do you mean by the frequency?
Yeah, so on a service call. So how many services would we get to a property per year?
Yeah, let me clarify on that. So again, this is something that we're kind of defining on. So typically when we roll out PestShare, instead of putting into place a recurring service program, what we're doing is we give a platform tenants can go to, and they just request it wherever they want it. So you think of and every market's different. Standard property management protocol is nothing in most markets. It is, you call me, it's going to be contractually likely a tenant responsibility. And if you're lucky, depending on the situation, I'll push it through and get the owner to pay for it. And so
I like this because the phobic tenants are going to want it every month. So where's the basement and where's the ceiling? I guess there is no basement if it's by request only, but the ceiling, where's the ceiling?
Yeah. So typically about we get an alert on a given property about 4 service, like work order service requests per year is kind of where it goes for property. And we found that I'd say the average tenant is really happy when they get to call in and they don't even have to get permission. It gets pushed through. I mean, you're going to have situations where, depending on what we set up with the property manager, some pests are going to be covered, some aren't. If it's not, we handle that with tenant. We negotiate discounts. We're going to point them towards professional servicing them with the best people possible for the best price. And we're going to kind of wear that burden. But the other things, it's covered. It's no cost to them. We start, dispatching, executing service, and all of our protocols and our processes are set up to beat current industry standard within the property management industry. So if it takes you a week, 2 weeks to get a pest control provider out there, usually we're getting there with them. They're servicing within 5 days. That's our goal.
Love it. And so you have an easy sign up place where we can add that to our website, for example, or you're going to guide us through that?
Yep. Yeah. So that's all part of our implementation process. Implementation with PestShare is super easy. Similar to other RBP programs, we're gonna give you a lot of tools to get that buy-in and get them covered as quickly as possible. But yeah, ultimately, as part of that, we're going to give you tools to promote PestShare. And ultimately, tenants can go to pestshare.com. They can submit their claims there. As they walk through, they give us their information. We'll match the property with within your portfolio, confirm it's an active property, and then there's a relatively robust process they can go through in which they can pick the pest category they're having issues in, give us detailed descriptions, and it really gives us everything we need to need in order to take care of them.
With RentBridge's property management, marketing, and workflow automation tools, take your business to the next step. Reduce overhead costs by up to 60%. Eliminate human error through automation. Make all your processes consistent and predictable. Have transparency and control through detailed and sophisticated reporting. For property managers that want to work smarter, not harder, RentBridge. Call us 972-805-8535 or visit rentbridgegroup.com.
I like it. So here's the parallel. So in our new tenant process, when we take a tenant application, we've given them approval, and we have them sign a lease agreement. Once they move in, we offer them, and they pay for this up front, we offer them a move-in orientation. And so one of our team members goes to the home, takes the videos, takes the pictures, points to them in the right direction for the water turn-off valve. Here's the air conditioning filters. Here how you change the light bulbs. Here are the GFCI breakers. I mean, it's just an orientation while they're doing an inspection in front of the tenant. So it's really meant to replace. Yeah. It's meant to replace the tenant inventory and condition form. Right.
Yep.
Here's the punchline to this. I bet we only get 80% the schedule or less. Okay. They pay for it, but they have to schedule it because we tell them that up front. We tell them that 3-4 different times in email. We don't control their schedule. We even allow them to do it on a weekend. And so we make every availability to them to schedule, but we put the burden of scheduling on the tenant. If they miss their window within 30 days, that's on them. So it's been a really good program. We get a lot of favorable reception from that. But the punchline to parallel what you're talking about is we make the tenants do their own scheduling. So I like this concept of they have to opt in and schedule their own type of a service call. That way they're going to be more bought into actually showing up and then letting the technician in.
Yeah, and I think there's a good point for me to make here on the concept of PestShare. The reason we can get pricing so cheap is because we don't book those recurring services. Now, and I want to be clear, you're in Texas, for example, like that may just be what's needed. That might be your industry standard, and we can for sure accommodate that and facilitate that if you want quarterly services for all your properties. But yeah, really the way it's designed is ultimately in that coming off the idea that reoccurring service charges are very expensive. Like, and my pastoral company here in Boise, Idaho, we figured out it costs us $55 to go anywhere. And so it's like just to go out there, let alone execute treatment. And so if I, for me to get to a $5, $10, $15 price point is very tricky if I've got to schedule out all of those, quarterly or bi-monthly services. So yeah, that's why we go this approach. We're going to put on them. Let us know when you have that problem, make it really easy for them to get what they need, provide them professional solutions, not go to Home Depot and get Raid or anything like that. And ultimately, let's just go a step up. Let's exceed what that is current industry standard and expectation is for the resident. And inadvertently, the resident experience is going to be great. I mean, they're now getting yes, we have options for you when it comes to pest control, but you look on the owner side, how many owners pick up that bill that the resident couldn't pay, or they went MIA and it was $1,000 bedbug job, a $500 cockroach job. I mean, my understanding that's going to ultimately end up in the lap of the owners. And I feel like that is where we really, can make a difference. We take owner spend on pest control down to, very, very small percentages once PestShare is implemented with a given portfolio.
Because the challenge is getting anybody to pay for anything quarterly, right? It's a challenge because the tenants don't want to pay it. The owners don't want to pay it. The owners in our lease agreement, after the first week, it's on the tenants, right? Week or two or three. I mean, we're reasonable about that. If they move in and there's a bed bug, I'm sorry, that's a bad word. If there's a cockroach issue, week one, if they moved in, we kind of put that on the owner. There's some common sense there. But if they've been there for 6 months or a year, tenant, you own it. That's your deal because you're leaving food out or you're not getting treatments or something. But we want to provide the solution in an easy button. I think that's a good service. I mean, that's our little 3-word mantra at RentWorks, and the team gets tired of me saying it. Provide excellent service. And so that's kind of where that's exactly what we strive to do for the tenants and the owners with all the different, ingenious programs that I've copied from other people and just put into our letterhead to this type of stuff we're talking about right now. This is providing excellent service.
Well, yeah, let me solve that pain point right there for you, Brad. So tenant moves in, there's cockroaches from previous tenant. Well, they just signed a new lease that had PestShare included part of the resident benefit program. There's no conversation to be had because the coverage is there. The tenant requests service, we go do it. I mean, so it doesn't have to be an owner thing, doesn't have to be the last tenant thing. That's what I love about it. It kind of kills some of that ambiguity that I think creates pain points ultimately from everybody. And, there's a lot of circumstances where our product can be utilized, but that's one that we see, we saw that all the time as we're ramping up to this and ultimately designing this company.
I'm intrigued. So this has been a really cool conversation. I've learned quite a bit. What am I missing? What are you dying to tell the folks out there that is something that I forgot to ask?
Oh, let's see here. I think we hit on, just about everything. I think overall with PestShare, we focus on that triple win. We use that phrase a lot now in the industry. And I think, and I love it, for us, that triple win's the owner, the tenant, and the property manager. We want them all to win. So with PestShare, we believe that whether it's through an owner benefit program or resident benefit program, we can bring a really great, valuable benefit to the tenants. And, we see our property managers even advertise pest control now as part of their listings as amenity for the property, and which is super cool. So great benefit for the tenants. There's a lot of markup room for this product when it comes to your resident benefit program for user property manager. Great income potential. We see, similar to the other products, there's some good, great profit opportunity there. I'll put it that way. But then the owners, man, that's why I love it. At the end of the day, we can, as a property manager, really stuck teeter-tottering between tenants and owners. And I think that's one thing I love. On one hand, we can really take care of that tenant, but then the owner, we're saving their bacon too. And maybe it is an owner pest. Maybe it's termites. Let's say, that's always going to be owner. That's never going to be a tenant. We're going to go out and we're going to broker the absolute best deal possible for you guys at no cost. No cost to you. That's just part of our service. Is we're going to get with the best providers. We're going to make sure accurate service. You have professional pest control people doing these conversations now, so we know what to ask for. We know what pricing is accurate in the markets, and we can make sure that those owners are taken care of too. But most of the time, we're just saving them money. That's our goal. So yeah, that's what we're all about. We want that triple win, and we think that we can really offer that in pest control.
So what I'm thinking here on our implementation is I think we could just add it as a bullet point to the resident benefits package, leave the cost where it is, and then add another bullet into the maintenance service package, which is the owner's responsibility as well. So essentially, we're kind of splitting the cost, air quote, but it's not really, because I don't envision needing to raise any of those fees, but I want to provide the service to our tenants and, of course, our owners. And it's going to justify that resident benefits package a bit more, and it's going to justify the maintenance service package a bit more, as we have on-demand pest control for your home. Tenant requests it, we get it done. And so I think that's going to be a really neat feature to add into those two programs that we have already existing. So I'm excited to be able to chat with you, man. I didn't realize it was going to go so well. You know, we're seeing it's a new service. There's a few rumors out there what you're doing, but you know, the reason I do this podcast is to create a mastermind, and this has been a lesson learned for me on what you guys are doing with the services, and it's been kind of exciting. I think we're going to have a real winner here for implementing here at RentWorks.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, and we've actually been talking to Melanie. We've got a call scheduled coming up too. So, you know, we're chatting with RentWorks. We're talking to a lot of people. I'd say that most of the players within, you know, the SFR space, we're talking to. Actually, I was just talking to Andy Props earlier. You know, that's a company we're talking to. Our Boise market's very strong. That's where we piloted this for a couple of years, and it's gone better than expected. We have raving fans here. And so, yeah, you'll see us. We're really diving in hard on NARPM. We love NARPM, and really just that part of the industry, I should say, the single family residential industry. PMMCon and your group, Brad, we're now diving into as well. We have big plans there. And so single family residential in general is a big focus for us, and we're not going anywhere yet. You'll see us at several of these major conferences. And yeah, really excited to be bringing this amenity again, really kind of just revolutionizing and changing how pest control is offered, making it more accessible for people is what we're passionate about.
Yeah, I think you're going to be in a good spot because the SFR space, the single family residential property management space is doing nothing but going up. The property management companies are becoming more valuable. The time on market for homes on the market for lease are dwindling. I mean, it's just going in days, hours now. The SFR rental homes are just so extremely popular right now. I don't see that ever changing. I think people are getting pushed out of apartments a little bit to a certain extent. The allure of home ownership is difficult. And so all of this perfect storm stuff is coming together to make renting just more attractive. And so now it's just a matter of, you know, finding the right property management company with the amenities that they want. And I think we're going to be in a very good position for the next, you know, foreseeable time frame.
Yeah, you know, just not to go down the rabbit hole, I want to touch that because I'm, you know, as an entrepreneur, I'm really passionate about a lot of what you guys are doing in your industry. You know, coming from the pest control industry, one thing I found is that the pest control industry is very relatable to the property management industry. It's kind of this old industry, like not the super sexy industry that everyone thinks they can go dive into, but when they come here, they find it's a great opportunity of sustainable long-term revenue with lots of people. You know, my dad, he always told me as a kid, Landon, it's always about lots of people paying you little bits of money. And so I think as time evolves, though, kind of like you're saying, the need for ancillary income is really important. And I will say that you guys in your industry are way more proactive than what we've seen in the pest control industry, and finding these ways of finding ancillary revenue streams that are very legitimate. You're adding a lot of value, and ultimately with resident benefit programs in general, I really subscribe to this vision of this enhanced rental experience, and which I may choose to, you know, think of millennials, think of Gen Z, they may choose to rent over own because these things are built in, and that's just the expectation now. And in that, I totally think there's a place for pest control along with a lot of these other offerings, but they don't, they're not going to want to deal with bugs. I can tell you that right now. And so having that built in and along with these other amenities is great. So again, great opportunity for the property managers to enhance their business opportunity, but just increasing that experience is key.
So Landon, how do our listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, you know, full transparency, Landon, LANDON at PestShare.com. Email me anytime, add me on Facebook. I noticed everyone's really popping, into Facebook, the industry, which is cool. We could connect there. You know, a good source of information and a way you can like book a demo with us and Zoom with us is simple, just PestShare.com. /property managers. And that will dive you in. There's good information there. Either myself or likely my business partner, Tom, does a lot of those calls. And one thing you'll find, everyone will tell you that knows us, we're really low pressure guys. We understand your world, and ultimately we're happy to get on and just chat and just give you more information. We get it. What we're doing is new. And so don't hesitate. Don't feel like you're going into the lion's den when you book a call with us. We're here to just help you at the end of the day.
Landon, this has been a great episode. Thanks for coming on, and I look forward to seeing you at the next conference. We'll see you there.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Thanks, Brad.
FindDigs makes your leasing process lightning fast and 100% fraud-proof straight from the applicant's phone. FindDigs not only instantly verifies income by connecting directly to bank accounts without any documents uploaded, but also uses 3D selfies and facial match technology to perform complete fraud-proof bank-grade identity verification, allowing property managers to process applications in under an hour. For more information, check out their website at www.finddigs.com or reach out to Henson at henson@finddigs.com.
This has been a podcast episode by PropertyManagementProductions.com. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast, leave us feedback, and come back for our next episode.